Travis Wayne Goodsill, back from my run. Before the day's through, I should do a video on what the church is required to do now, through their lawyers, as to the lawsuit that they are receiving today. I'm uploading that video for you, or the video of my lawsuit being delivered today, right now on my movie maker. So I was going to do that for this video, but then realized, yeah, there's more information that needs to be told, specifically to Mormons, since even though I'm an LDS critic, my voice is to the Mormons. That's the beauty of it all. But just to give you an idea, remember the signs in the heavens from the Bible, and that there's going to be other signs, Mormons? Well, there's other signs going on right now, and more to come, as Joseph Smith's translation of the Bible indicates that the signs indicate events on earth. They are symbols of what is to take place on earth. And so, having been educated in the ancient culture, and thus the ancient manner of interpreting astrology, or astronomy, sorry, they're not the same. It's astronomy. They were extremely precise with astronomy, the science, and were able to identify the events that occurred on Earth during the passage, and thus told stories of the future events that they were precise on through that method, and thus we get the latter-day signs. They knew. They knew the dates, they knew the places where it would occur, and that just blows my mind away. But regardless, Nelson is about to transfer power to the one mighty and strong, and I'm going to leave it vague and coded for you, but just to let you know, it's coming. So when I was running, this is the other video that I wanted to explain further. Freemasonry. As you watch this video, I explained that one of the withheld information from the church is about Freemasonry and the connections to Freemasonry. The church just refuses to reveal that they were connected with Freemasonry until either a critic or a Mormon makes the connection. And then they come out and say, oh yeah, sure, Joseph Smith, 1842. So they hope that by giving confirmation, but not the full information, not the full account, they think that they can pacify the critics or the Mormons. And and again, they withhold all the information involved there, because if a critic says, oh, well, okay, so they're connected Freemasonry, and it's supposed to be no big deal, but then you realize if somebody does further study, which nobody does. That's why the church is able to get away with this. This tactic of evil. Then somebody comes along and says, well, these inverted pentagrams, what are they doing on your temples? And the church just says, oh, yeah, you remember Freemasonry? Symbol. No, it had nothing to do with Lucifer. No. And again, they deceive people. They give minimal response, confirming to squash the rage, but refuse to give the full story. And to this day, they're still refusing to give the full story, even though they've rewritten again their church history with these saints books. But again, it's still with the withheld information. Because critics of the church historians, who were the September 6th, who got excommunicated and fired from BYU, the saints books are a result of what they revealed. And the church is saying, okay, fine, we'll acknowledge that. And so when you go to Wikipedia to study and research the history of the church, you realize they're withholding the information, and when they reference something, it's always to these critical authors. They refuse to reveal the sources, the truth of what really happened. And so Wikipedia is horrifying when you're trying to do research on the church, and you definitely can't get it from the church. And so you have to use the church and Wikipedia as springboards for what to research. And that gets very frustrating, because other things on Wikipedia conforms to Wikipedia's standards and policies and whatever. But the church does not. The church is in violation of that. And so Freemasonry is one of those. As I told in this video, that the church comes from a different lodge, depending on who you're referring to, Brigham Young or Joseph Smith. The church won't admit that. The church just barely admitted that, yes, Smith Sr. and Hiram were of the particular lodges, but they don't tell you which lodge. York or Scottish. They won't tell you. They refuse. And so those of us who know there's a distinction have to then go to the lodge's websites and go, oh, York. So frustrating. And then Brigham Young, Scottish. But the church will even admit now that Joseph Smith Sr. was a Master Mason. But they won't explain what that means. And so, it's just so frustrating. You just want to bang your head. Mental health will drive you mad. And and so, yeah, you've got to know the full accounting. So with the Yorkites, they take the Knights Templar tradition. The highest rank in the Yorkites is the rank of Knights Templar. And so you then have to learn about the Knights Templar. And that's where all of the buried plates, Solomon's Temple, the Knights Templar are said to have been assigned by, I think they were assigned by the Pope to go dig in Jerusalem. And they dug underneath the Temple of Solomon. And then they just stopped and came back to the Pope. And then all of a sudden, the Pope then grants them knighthood. And they become wealthy by providing the provisions for pilgrims to Jerusalem, as they protect them as well on the journey. But then the Arabs battle for Jerusalem and take it over, and they lose Jerusalem, and a future pope is frustrated with the wealth and power of the Knights Templar, and Friday the 13th comes about. And so then you have evidence in America of the Knights Templar long before Christopher Columbus. And then you have little Egypt in southern Illinois. And so then Joseph Smith is saying, we're going to build the kingdom of Zion in Illinois. And we're going to build the city of Zion as a mountain pyramid. Egyptian? Catching on. And so then you realize, hey, wait a minute, didn't the 21st of August 2017 total solar eclipse pass over southern Illinois? Isn't the one on 8th of April 2024 going to cross at southern Illinois? X marks the spot. And so all these things nobody knows, because nobody pursues the full information. And if you're going to understand church history, you need to know all this information. Joseph Smith knew all this. He knew the legends, he knew the stories, he was in the lodge. And so when the Book of Mormon plates comes about and warns of an attempt to put a king on the throne of America, which just declared independence from the king, King George. There was a plot to return America back to a monarchy. That has been America's threat this whole time, to destroy the Constitution and return America to a monarchy. And so people then alter definitions, throw out misdefinitions of conspiracy theories, so that people go, oh, conspiracy theory is fake news. Okay, got it. And people get deceived and misled and lied to and deceived and chaos. But that's essential to understanding church history and understanding the role of a master mason. Because when you realize that there was this event called the anti-Masonic movement with William Morgan, where was William Morgan arrested? Where was Joseph Smith Sr., the master mason of? Uh-oh. See, now you realize that the Smiths had a direct connection with William Morgan. So when they start baptisms for the dead, and William Morgan is among those names, and then Joseph takes care of his wife with her new husband, who, yes, is far older. It's just to take care of her. She's a widower. A widow. Widower is the man. She's a widow, according to the law. And so she needs a man to take care of her. because in our society, women can take care of themselves now. So we don't understand their culture where women needed a man to take care of them. That concept is lost to us now because of the women's suffrage movement. And so understanding history needs to be understood in its full context, not just, oh, I found this one thing, and the church is acknowledging it finally. You see, because that threat to America to restore a monarchy started with the Illuminati, with Johann Adam Weishaupt, and founded on the 1st of May, 1776. And when they got exposed in Germany, they had to go underground. And the way you go underground is you infiltrate another organization. The Scottish Rites, they tried the York Rites, couldn't do it. But they succeeded in the Scottish Rites. Thus, William Morgan says, hey, York Rites members, fellow York writers, the Illuminati has infiltrated the Scottish Rites, and they're going to try to obtain government positions of power and rise up in rank to overthrow the government and place a king on the presidency. And so, when those of you who think it's a conspiracy theory that Washington, D.C. has the inverted pentagram and the bottom sunbeam is at the White House, and people are trying, oh yeah, conspiracy theory, ignore that. No, yes, it is. Because what's between the horns? The Scottish Rites Lodge. That's their whole plot, to take over America and place a king on the throne. And yes, Lucifer is their god. And that's the whole plot. As Scottish Rites member Albert Pike wrote the letter to Giuseppe Mazzini saying, hey, we're going to destroy Christianity and replace it with Luciferianism. How are you going to do that? Well, we're going to get Christianity to lose hope in their own God. How are you going to do that? By having them force the signs of the second coming, and they won't come true because of that. And then all Christians will lose faith because Jesus did not appear. They themselves took back the planet. And because they did it, and not Jesus, ta-da! No God! So now, how do you implement Luciferianism? Because you can't just do it to Christians immediately. Oh, you have no Jesus. Well, here's Lucifer. They'll all freak out. So you got to do it a different way. Say, science, which is neutral. But that's the trick. You introduce science, saying, remember Trump, how dumb he was with science? This is what we need to implement. Science, 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 science. And that's a good thing. But here's the trap. Then once you implement science, then you start implementing Luciferian doctrine of taking away agency. See, the Mormons know this. And so science then gets used to control the masses. They're already doing it with the pseudoscience of psychiatry, as they've tricked you into a two-party government system. You have to choose one or the other. There is no other option. Yes, there is. You know, the Constitution. We're not even trying that. But the Scottish Rites use the two eagles, which is the seal of Russia as well. And so it's not a coincidence that Putin is in control of the church and Trump. Not a coincidence. and the inverted pentagram. That's where it comes from Brigham Young. He put it on the Nauvoo Temple. He had it dedicated a month later, and Mormons were upset with him. You were supposed to do it on the 6th of April, Brigham, and he did it on the anniversary of the Illuminati. You know, it's like, are you not trying to conceal any of this? You're just openly acknowledging this threat to America? And so what does Brigham Young do after that? He then flees America and creates his own kingdom. It's that simple, Mormons. Brigham Young fulfilled what the Scottish Rites intended to do, but he did it on a smaller scale. He couldn't overthrow America, so instead he took his hostages to the Salt Lake Valley to establish his kingdom of Deseret. And I've gone over the video about the Seagull Gate with the inverted pentagram. And the seagull, the scavenger bird, on top of the beehive, the industrious. He doesn't even try to hide. And so the Salt Lake Temple has the inverted pentagrams. What was it? The Logan Temple has the inverted pentagrams. That's why, Mormons. Because Brigham Young is the threat to America. And it was kept in the family, in his group. Those who were of his reorganized Quorum of 12, which came from his traveling 12, under Joseph. The apostleship was kept in the family. So Bruce R. McConkie, not a family member until he married, was it a Smith, wasn't it? And so Brigham R. McConkie was allowed to become an apostle, to keep the money in the family, to keep the power in the family. And so I think, I remember being taught in a president's class in Institute, where it was said that Elder Scott, was the first Mormon outside of the family connection. He had no family links. And so when he, right before he dies, there's all these conspiracy talks that he's getting upset with the apostles, that he's wanting to quit, and then he dies. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? Did they murder him? And then Packer goes, and the other one goes, Perry. All right there during the Blood Moon Tetrad. So in short, to summarize, in conclusion, when you're studying church history, don't pick and choose what you want to accept. Don't just accept whatever the church tells you to accept, which keeps changing as critics or Mormons find out more information. They're not telling you the full story. And thus it is. And so, yes, I put it in my lawsuit, by the way, saying, hey, I'm supposed to be of the York Rites with the Smiths, but the church has deceived me and had me as the Scottish Rites. I'm supposed to be protecting the Constitution according to the York Rites, but instead I'm with the Scottish Rites who wants to destroy America and the Constitution and put a king on the throne. So that's under treason. But like I said, my case has to deal specifically with their disappearing me, like a criminal organization does, because I'm a translator. They didn't like me being a translator, and instead of including me, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. They saw me as an enemy, refused to keep me closer. Because it's too much of a risk that I might end up taking over the presidency of the church through the system they set up through Brigham Young. Joseph Smith's system would not have done it that way, but would have been a different way. And so again, I would have become it anyway because I demonstrated the fruits of what they claim they're supposed to have, which they have no fruits. So oh, what a tangled web we weave when we practice to deceive. I don't know if I quoted that correctly, but I'm sure you guys know what I'm referring to.